So how often do you miss home?
Every single day.
How many times today?
Okay, so right now I'm here with two Singaporeans who are studying in Paris. Would you guys like to introduce yourself?
I'm Shravan. I'm a graduate student at Sciences Po. I'm studying international security.
I'm Xenia. I'm also a graduate student at Sciences Po, and I'm doing a Master in International Governance and Diplomacy.
Why do you choose Paris?
For me, I chose Paris specifically because of the French language. Like, I wanted to learn French as a language. Like, I was already taking French at NUS, so I wanted to develop that more because I felt like being able to speak a third language was important in an international organization, which I want to do in the future. And also because I wanted to study international relations or something related to like international affairs, and that's what Sciences Po is like known for, which is the school that we're in here. I think I always had a plan to do like my studies overseas. I just didn't know like when specifically, and I didn't know like actually where. Actually, another of the reasons why I chose Paris was because I was working at the French embassy prior to this.
Okay.
So that's why like it made sense for me to want to like continue like my experience in France because I really enjoyed my time at the French embassy.
How about you?
So I went abroad for undergrad, like I mentioned earlier. I was in Canada, and the university I was at, the University of British Columbia, they have a dual degree program with Sciences Po. The way it works is students will spend 2 years here at Sciences Po and then their second 2 years at UBC. So I had a lot of friends who were in the program and professors who had obviously been exposed to this environment quite a bit. So by the time it came to applying for graduate school, they eventually just sort of pushed me in this direction.
Have you ever thought of like going back to Singapore to study?
I did consider it, but this seemed like a little bit more adventure for a little bit longer. Singapore is very comfortable and familiar, and I can go back there anytime I like. But this, if I can stay out adventuring a little longer, I'd like to stay out.
I mean, I feel like I love Singapore and I love everything about Singapore, but at the same time, I also think that like we have a certain way of thinking,
Yes.
and like I think it's always good to like see how other people from other countries think, and like just be with like international people from all around the world, see like their ways of lives. Yeah, just explore. So
Yeah, and you spend 18, 20 years in one place and you get very comfortable with it. It's
yeah.
lovely.
Yeah.
But at some point you realize, okay, you have to actually go out and see the world to really develop as a person. Regardless of what, you're actually studying, sometimes you can just go travel. Just so happened that it happened to work out with studying as well for
Yeah,
us.
exactly.
Were your parents like objective, or were they like, are you sure you want to go?
My parents were pretty supportive from day one because they already know I'd done 4 years abroad, so they didn't think it would be too much of a shift for me necessarily.
For me, actually, my parents were also super supportive. Like, I think for my parents, like they always kind of knew that I wanted to be overseas. Like, I wanted to explore like another part of the world. So they like tried their best to do whatever they can to like support my dream and to like just be supportive in any way that they can. I mean, I think the only reason why like parents might object is because of financial reasons,
really
but
expensive.
yeah, I mean, I definitely would say that I'm very privileged because like my parents are also supporting a bulk of like my studies, and like they're paying for my life here basically, so I'm really very thankful. Like I think like I just feel very privileged because I mean I know a lot of people who are not even able to do this because of financial reasons. So
I've been very lucky that my parents have been able to support my last 4.5 years abroad. With another year and a half to go, I'm very lucky that my parents can have this kind of financial security we need to be able to continue to support my studies.
What were the hurdles you had studying overseas?
The basic things of life are usually pretty easy to figure out, like how to do your laundry and how to cook for yourself and all that. You either figure it out yourself or one of your friends teaches you, and by and large we'll pick it up eventually. The hard part is when like something bad happens, you fall sick or whatever. If you're at home, you generally know your insurance is covered, you know your family doctor, everything is good. But the first time something like that happens, you have to go to the hospital, to the doctor, whatever it is.
But you're alone in like the
You're
city.
alone, even with your friends. It's not quite as comforting.
Yeah.
So even if you know them really well, unless you know how to handle emergencies in that environment, that first time is always really scary. For me, at least, the big hurdle here was finding housing. It is an expensive housing market, so obviously there are people who take advantage of that and they try to fleece you. And if you don't speak the language, sometimes you can't really cut through some of the nuances. We got to figure it out now. So.
I think for me, language barrier was a huge thing as well.
But you speak
Like-
so fluent French now.
No, I mean, I think it's fluent when you like go to the grocery store, when you go to a cafe, like
Yeah.
it's easy. But like for example, like when I went to the pharmacy, like I wanted a specific type of medicine, like the guy didn't understand, like, oh, I'm feeling this in my throat, like it's just not translatable into French. I mean, I don't really speak that good. I speak like basic French, so it was difficult in that way. I think another one for me is actually like being away from home, is like being away from my friends and my family as well. And I guess like that support is what I'm lacking. Like as you said, like I mean you have friends here and stuff, but I think it's different. Like
Different kind of friends.
yeah, and also like I feel like for me, my experience is that all the friends I made here are like people I've just met. I mean, like I love Shravan and I love everybody else, but like it also like I've not had like years of friendship with them, you know. So it's like they're also getting to know me and also getting to know them. So yeah, it's more like you don't really have that sense of comfort with like everybody.
Yeah, but you know, sometimes just meeting some people who you connect instantly with.
Yeah.
You don't really have to put much effort into it, it just
Yeah.
works. And in a place like this, you end up meeting Singaporeans, and just by sheer force of circumstance, you all become really good friends.
So how often do you miss home?
Every
You
single
just
day.
How many times today?
So you guys actually do miss it a lot.
Yeah, not to say that we're not enjoying our time here in
Yeah.
France. It's just the things you do here and the things you do at home, the things you get here versus things you get at home. Very different, right?
Yeah.
If I wanted laksa, I can't just walk out and go get $2
Oh, the
laksa.
food is
Yeah, the food is
the hardest thing
yeah,
that you
the
have to
biggest
hurdle, I
aspect.
say.
Exactly.
Finding Milo, especially, is absurdly difficult.
One thing that I miss is like lor mee. It's like so specific. You can't get it here. You have to cook it yourself. But
You know, you can't get Singaporean food here, but you can get really good Thai food.
you can Vietnamese food as well.
It's
Yeah.
understandable.
Yeah.
How are you guys funding your education here? I know that Xenia is under a scholarship,
Yeah.
but other than that, you know, like maybe accommodation wise, and also like how much in a sense, like is your university fees, and how much do you really spend a month as a student?
Tuition is what, like 18,000 a year, roughly?
A year.
18,000 euros a year. Yeah, accommodation for me, I pay about 700 750-ish, plus let's say about 600 in expenses between groceries and other things, like going out.
Yeah.
I like to cook a lot, which means I end up buying a lot of like really specialty things, so that racks up my grocery bill a bit. I'd say about 1,400 to 1,500 euros a month in expenses.
I think the most I spend on is actually like going out. Like if you go to a museum, like you want to see an exhibition, or like you want to have a drink with friends, like you want to have a night out.
Yeah.
I think those cost the most.
Yeah, because if you
Yeah.
go out exploring, it ends up becoming a whole.
The whole thing.
It ends up becoming a whole day affair.
If I have a whole day of classes, I usually just have drinks at the end of the day. That's it. Or like I go home because I don't really
Drinks like every day.
not every day,
Not every day.
but like that's
like a good weekend.
yeah,
like Friday.
weekends,
Fridays,
Fridays definitely. But during the week, sometimes if you want like a break from school, like people usually go out for drinks.
I usually end up just getting coffee with people in the middle of the day, because my classes, at least last semester, most of them ended pretty late. So I would have breaks around about like 4 p.m. So I'd just go get a cup of coffee with someone, come back, and then just go home, because after about 8 p.m. I don't really want to see people anyway.
But my rent is slightly cheaper because I live in student housing. So I pay about like 500 euros a month. But living expenses also 600 to 700 euros.
Is it recommended to get like student housing or?
I mean, I feel like student housing can be quite conveniently located, but I think they really differ in terms of like how they look, like how much space you get, what kind of facilities you get. Like for me, I live in a studio, like a T1 studio, so I have like my own toilet and also my own like small kitchen area, and I have like 20 square meters. But some people, they share their toilets and their kitchen, so they just have a room. Like my friend lives in like a 10 square meter, which is like just enough for a bed and a table.
Have you ever regretted or like wanting to drop out and be like, I'm gonna go back home?
I mean, I really enjoy my time here, and sometimes you get a little bit homesick, but I've never been like, I want to go home, or like, I think when the time is over, the time is over, but for now, like, you just enjoy what it is, yeah.
The initial phase of stuff, you come into a new place and you're adjusting to life and all of that. But once you're settled and you have your routine, find your gym lah, find your local cafe, whatever it is, settle into that routine, you start doing things, and it just becomes normal.
What is the best thing about studying abroad?
Meeting people from such a massive spectrum of backgrounds, I've lost track of how many countries I've met people from at this point.
Especially at Singapore, since there's so many different like nationalities, like you really get to meet people from like all different kinds of like walks of life and stuff. So I think that's like the best part, but also the traveling.
But is it expensive? to like go on a weekend trip? Like
it depends
Depends.
where you're going. If you're going to like Italy or something, then
If you're gonna catch the train, it depends on which train you're catching. If you're catching the TGV, which is the really fast like nuclear powered train, very expensive.
how expensive?
Gosh.
Average.
A 2-hour trip can cost you like a cool €100. But if you were to catch a regular train going to that same destination, half that maybe.
I feel like that's kind of like similar to like maybe hopping on a weekend to Bangkok or something. Yeah.
Yeah, basically.
What do you guys plan to do after graduating? Staying in Europe?
Based on what I've seen for the kind of research that I do, my work will probably end up taking me to either the UK, the US, Canada or Australia. Probably start there, maybe back to Singapore in a few years. I don't know yet.
I mean, for me, I'm open to exploring. I go where the opportunities go. But I would definitely love like working in Europe, exploring like the different countries in Europe. So yeah, and the same. I mean, like for like what like the fields that I'm interested in, I think Europe might also have more opportunities. So I mean, if there's like a massive opportunity in Singapore, I'm
Yeah.
definitely going home. But
Yeah, that's true.
yeah,
If the work takes me there.
see where
yeah,
it takes
exactly.
you.
Yeah, yeah.
Do you have any advice for like students in the shoes of someone who wants to do it, but at the same time something's holding them back?
What is holding you back?
Yeah.
All of those anxieties are completely normal. If you keep listening to your anxieties and not taking opportunities because of them, you'll end up just not living your life. So at some point you just have to take a leap of faith and trust that, you know, you have built enough skills and studying abroad will give you more exposure and more perspective that will help you ultimately be more successful with your career.
I also think you need to make a very practical decision. If your finances really don't allow it, maybe like work for a few years and then do your masters or whatever. Like you have to be practical about it, but don't be afraid. Like,
Okay, I think any last words?
well, let us know if you're coming to Paris. We'll welcome you here.